Welcome back to Joe Stunner Boxing. Let's talk about one of the many fights on the undercard of Bivol versus Beterbiev, the rematch, which could be a standalone main event. I'm talking about Virgil Ortiz Jr. of United States, 26 years of age, 22 wins with 21 KOs, no draws, no defeats. And he takes on the once beaten ISRAIL Madrimov. Madrimov has 10 wins with 7 KOs. One defeat, which was in his last fight to Terence Crawford. He lost his WBO. I don't know what the hell it was. Was it an interim title, or was it? It was a super welterweight belt. I can't remember whether it was interim or whether it was the full fat version. But anyway, he lost to Terence Crawford. But he did give Crawford a competitive fight. Two of the judges had it 115, 113. One had it 116, 112. And Madrimov, 30 years of age, he's from Uzbekistan. When you consider that was only his 12th fight, he's got a draw on his record as well. Against Terence Crawford, yeah, impressive stuff. Not bad. I mean, he lost the fight, but which is not what you want to do. But you can't really. I think a lot of people thought Crawford would handle him better. Madrimov is far better than his paltry record suggests. And when you consider that he won it was WBA belt, wasn't it? It wasn't the WBO belt. Yes, of course, it was WBA. Excuse me, my mistake. Earlier on, I said it was an WBO interim belt, but it was the WB. I'm sure it was WBA full fat belt, wasn't it? Yeah, there's so many of these bastard belts around. I can't get my head around it sometimes. But anyway, he did win that WBA belt. This is what triggered my memory, because he fought Magomed Kurbanov, who was undefeated in 25 fights, and he stopped Kurbanov in 5 rounds. Very impressive performance. He totally dominated Kurbanov. Kurbanov, a Russian who's, he's 29 years old. He's as good as he's going to get. He came in with, like I say, he was undefeated in 25. He had... I think it was about 13 knockouts, but he just wasn't at the races against Madrimov. Madrimov really dominated, and I think Kurbanov he definitely should have had at least one defeat on his record, because I think in Russia he beat Liam Smith, and I definitely thought Smith won that fight. So he kind of got found out by Madrimov. Madrimov is now, he's 30 years old, so he's as good as he's going to get. And Virgil Ortiz, when you consider the KO percentage of Ortiz, I mean, at 26 years old, he's probably just coming into his prime, you would think. But we really have to talk about his last fight, which was against Serhij Bohachuk. Now, Bohachuk came in with 24 wins, with 25 KOs. So we're talking a battle of the big punchers. But Bohachuk did have a defeat on his record, which was to Brandon Adams. He got stopped in 8 rounds, which was considered to be an upset, because Adams at the time, I think it was about 22-3 or something like that. And Bohachuk also had a good win over Brian Mendoza, who's a good fighter. That was a 12 round decision, I think. So he was somewhat overlooked with Ortiz Jr., despite having that very, very impressive KO percentage. People thought, well, Brandon Adams stopped him. Ortiz Jr.'s a killer, with all those KOs, 21 out of 22. He's going to, he should batter Bohachuk. Not a bit of it. Not a bit of it. In fact, it didn't take long. I think it was the first round, wasn't it? Bohachuk put him. Yeah, he did. It was the first round. Bohachuk put Ortiz Jr. on the floor in the first round, and then he repeated the trick in the 8th round, and he gave Ortiz Jr. hell on earth. And the scorecards reflected this. A lot of people thought Bohachuk won that fight, but in actual fact, 2 of the cards had it 114, 112. So that would be 8 rounds to 4 with 2 10-8s for Bohachuk. And the other one had it 1/3. The other judge had it 113, 113. I mean, I thought Ortiz probably did win the fight, despite the despite having to work for every round and suffering the 2 knockdowns, I thought he was just about, doing enough to sort of win the rounds. But he was put through the ringer by a very, very good opponent. And Bohachuk, he deserves other opportunities just on the back of that very close defeat, the majority decision defeat. And when you consider that that Ortiz Jr., his previous 2 fights were against Thomas Delorme and Frederick Lawson, both of those were a round apiece. He then had Michael McKinson, or previously had Michael McKinson in 2022. McKinson took him to 8 or 9 rounds, and McKinson was down late, but he was undefeated at the time in 22, McKinson. He did give Ortiz Jr. Quite a bit to think about. And I think that Ortiz Jr., he's 26 now, but when you consider, like a fight, for example, like the McKinson fight, which was about 2 or 3 years ago, so he would have been 23, 24, that was a good learning fight for him. And the Bohachuk fight, which was August, September last year, roughly, that should really tell him something, that you just can't go in there and blow everyone out of the water, because he is extremely front-footed, orthodox fighter, very aggressive, big puncher, as we know. And he kind of fought fire with fire against Bohachuk, another big banger. 29 years of age, actually, Bohachuk is. So he was probably as good as he's going to get. Whereas Vergil Ortiz Jr. at 26, you would think he's probably going to get a bit better than he currently is. There's more to come. Now, in terms of experience, I think, like I said, also let's mention a few other fighters that Ortiz Jr. has fought, because he has been brought along quite well. Like he fought Sammy Vargas in 2020, stopped him in 7 rounds. He fought Kabalauskis, stopped him in 8. Kabalauskis is a heavy. He had 1 defeat at the time, Kabalauskis. So he's fought, he's been brought along okay, and I think the Delorme fights and the Lawson fight was a bit of an embarrassment. Very, very early first round stoppage. Delorme, I think he's been stopped a few times, hasn't he? Boots Ennis stopped him in 1 round, so it wasn't particularly surprising when Ortiz Jr. repeated the trick. Delorme's not a bad fighter, but he's more of a gatekeeper now, and he's in his mid-30s. But nevertheless, Ortiz Jr. Has been brought along okay, I think. Not too bad. I'd like, the Bohachuk fight, again, was a 12-rounder. So he proved that he can do the 12 under pressure and come through it, which was good. But I would say that ISRAIL Madrimov is probably going to be his sternest test. Even though Madrimov has only 12 fights on his pro record, he was a very, very good amateur, Madrimov. And he seems to sort of travel quite well, Madrimov. He's fought in Britain. He fought Michael Sorrow and got a technical draw. In fact, that was a return match, because Sorrow he stopped him in 9 rounds, and there was some controversy about the ending. So they had a rematch in it was all in the O2, I think, in Greenwich, and it was a technical draw after 3. So definitely in terms of pro experience, Vergil Ortiz Jr. has the better resume, no question about it. But we're talking, like I say, I still think it's a step up. I think Madrimov showed a fair bit against Crawford. Didn't win it, but, pushed him. And also the Kurbanov fight, I thought he was very impressive in that, although Kurbanov probably was a little bit flattered by his undefeated record. He's probably a little bit overrated, Kurbanov. But nevertheless, I think this is a step up for Ortiz Jr. How do I think the fight will go? I think Madrimov probably a little bit more conservative with his output. Ortiz Jr. typically has been a come-forward banger, as we know. Madrimov, a bit more of a boxer-puncher. doesn't mind being on the back foot, although he can come forward, as he proved against Kurbanov. But I think Ortiz Jr. will probably have learnt a fair bit from that Boachuk fight, which was only, you know, like 5 months ago. 4 or 5 months ago, no, a bit more, about 5 or 6 months ago. And being on the floor twice, I mean, sometimes that's learning lessons the hard way. So I think but the thing is, even though you want your fighter to not ignore defence and not to just be wide open, of course you don't, that's a statement of the obvious. When you tighten up the defence of an offensive fighter, what you don't want to do is shut down their offence, is, you know, make them too cautious, make them overthink. You know, if someone has a natural inclination to go forward, if that's their natural style, you don't want to sit upon that. You don't want to put it in bondage. You want to, you know, you want them to still be as offensive minded, but just shore up the defence a little bit. And I think after the Boachuk fight, Ortiz Jr. will probably do that. What he doesn't want to do, again, is to stand off too much and allow Madrimov to sort of box and, you know, do that boxer-puncher thing, which we kind of saw a little bit of that against Bud Crawford, actually. And he did it quite well. But I do think Madrimov against Crawford was a bit too conservative, a little bit too... I don't know. Did he have full confidence that he'd be able to get past Bud? I don't know. But you know what? I think Madrimov he might even be a better, more confident fighter, having done the 12 with Bud Crawford, even though he lost his WBA belt. Ortiz Jr. will have learnt from his 12 with Boachuk. This is a difficult fight to predict, but I'm gonna go with Ortiz Jr. to win on points, and I think it might even be a controversial decision. Probably a split, something like that, a majority decision. And I can quite easily see a scenario where Madrimov actually pinches the fight, you know, not pinches it, but, you know, wins a close one as well. I don't think there'll be a great deal in it in terms of points, 115, 113, 116, 112. But I'm going to stick with Ortiz Jr. And I only make this, to be honest, like a 55-45 fight in his favour, Ortiz Jr. I think this is a good fight. It could be probably a bit more technical than you might think, because Ortiz Jr. again, he's a banger. He likes to come forward, but I think having had that experience against Boachuk, where he was on the floor twice, but having done the 12 rounds, he'll know to be a little bit reticent. It's certainly early on, but he'll be thinking, I did the 12 under heat, under pressure from Boachuk. I can do 12 with Madrimov. I don't think that'll be a big deal. I don't think he'll run out of gas. He seems to have a decent enough engine. Madrimov certainly does. Yeah, I think I'm going to go for Ortiz to pinch it, but there won't be much in it. There won't be much in it at all, I don't think. And again, I repeat, if Madrimov gets it, I wouldn't be entirely surprised. I'll make this a very, very evenly matched fight. So I'm going with Ortiz Jr. on points. What do you think? Comments below. Tell me why you think person A or person B is going to win. Please, if you're new to the channel, you could subscribe. That would be great. And also hit the like button as well. And spread the word about Joe Stunner Boxing. Many, many thanks, as always, for your time. And yeah, it's going to be a good one on Saturday. I'll catch you later. Bye for now.